Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories. The first story, lazy, irresponsible nurses and crazy roommate. The second story, a woman tried to steal an urn with ashes from a funeral home. The third story, another insolent Karen at the supermarket. The first story is stupid entitled nurses versus peeved off protective daughter. I'm gonna start this by saying I have the deepest respect for nurses. I myself am a frequent flyer in the city hospital, and I know firsthand how hard they work and how underappreciated they are. This story is not about the good nurses though. So Easter weekend a few years ago, BC, before COVID, my much-loved mother suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. Blessedly, an army medic happened to be shopping at the same store when she collapsed. He had his medic kit in his car and was able to fast-track her vitals and information while we waited for the EMTs. His speedy actions saved her life. Emergency life-saving surgery on Easter Sunday morning was followed by amazing care in the ICU for the next month. When Mom was deemed stable, she was moved to a regular bed in the BCU, brain care unit. This is where our hell began. Once Mom was in her room, I took up residence. Since I was the sibling with the free days, I would arrive at 8:30 a.m. and stay with Mom until 5 p.m. every day to keep her company and be a liaison between family and medical peeps. The head nurse, henceforth known as Skank, was less than pleased to see me there every day. She told me she was used to patients' families visiting for an hour or two and then going home, said with much emphasis. Apparently having me there every day cramped her style, and I soon found out why. Week 1. Mom was still only semi-conscious, waking for a few moments to look for me and then drifting off again. Whenever she needed help that I was unable to do, I would page for a nurse and be told, yeah, be there in a few. Rinse and repeat with me getting peeved after an hour had passed, and my mother was in distress. It got so bad that she had open wounds on her legs from laying in stuff. Finally, after this happened 3 or 4 times, I stormed down to the nurse's station to find them sitting around laughing, chatting and eating cookies while the patient's call bells went off. Cookies, while my mother and other patients needed tending to. I glared at them and said, I realized you're entitled to breaks, but I paged for help for my mother over an hour ago. Do you suppose one of you can tear yourselves away and help the semi-conscious patient in room 24? After much huffing, muttering, and a few guilty looks, one of them detached herself from the tea party and went to Mom. The head nurse came up to me with steam coming out of her ears. Skank, now listen, that is not how we do things here. Your mother isn't even aware of us coming and going, so it isn't a big deal for her to wait. Me, my mother may not be aware as you say, but she knows when she's uncomfortable and I'm aware. So as long as you do your D job, we'll be getting along just fine. Week 2. Mom had a roommate we shall call Becky Lou. Becky Lou had been there for 2 or 3 months waiting for a placement in a permanent residence. She was a favorite with the nurses, and she clearly resented having to share what she considered to be her room, frequently walking past Mom and I and glaring at us while muttering foul words under her breath. After a week, Becky Lou got louder and more vocal in her hostility. I mentioned it to the head nurse and was shut down with a shrug, and oh, that's just Becky Lou. It all came to a head one spring day when good old Becky came storming into the room screaming and swearing. She shoved Mom's wheelchair out of the way. Mom was in bed, fortunately, and started tearing stuff off the walls, throwing chairs, kicking furniture while screaming, and swearing at the top of her voice. I paged a nurse, was scared to leave Mom with Becky raging. The nurse came and shrugged and walked out. I was peeved. I turned to Becky the nut and told her to keep it down, that she wasn't alone in the room. Next thing I knew, Becky Lou was sitting on her bed on her phone. At least she was quiet, right? Wrong. What she said next still scares me and peeves me off at the same time. I remember it word for word as it's burned into my mind. Becky Lou. Yep, the mother. Yep, the daughter. Kill the bees. I froze. Here was my mother semi-conscious, strapped to a bed, completely helpless and getting effing death threats from her freak of a roommate. Becky hung up her phone and huffed off to who knows where, leaving her side of the room tossed. I paged for a nurse and got a different one. When she came, I told her what happened, and to let the head nurse know I planned to stay the night. I was told that wasn't allowed. I was done. Stormed down to the nurse station and started raising hell. Me, my mother just got death threats from her insane roommate. What do you plan to do about it? Skank, oh, that's just Becky Lou, you have to excuse her. Me, the hell I will. My mother is barely conscious and completely unable to defend herself or call for help. She needs moved to a new room now. Skank, condescending look. We don't move patients. You have to accept things as they are. Me, What the hell is that supposed to mean? I'm gonna give you two choices. Either you find a new place for my mother where she won't be in danger while she sleeps, or I go upstairs to the director of this hospital and tell him about all the SH you and your staff are pulling with your patients. Insert shocked Pikachu face here. Skank. Well, maybe we could move her to 2-7. Me. Do it. You have 5 minutes to get things started or I go upstairs. It took them less than that to begin moving Mom and her stuff to the new room. Once she was settled and comfortable, one of the nurses stayed behind. After making sure Skank wasn't nearby, she told me what set Becky Lou off in the first place. Turned out Becky had to have a nurse go with her to have a cigarette. She wanted to smoke, but the nurses were all too busy to spend half an hour outside babysitting Becky Lou. Insert resulting rage here. I made sure Mom was safe and comfortable and went home for the weekend. Other family was with her on weekends to give me a break. Monday morning, I received a call from Mom's hospital social worker. Here, each patient has a social worker assigned to them to be an advocate for their care. This worker explained that Skank tried to lodge a complaint against me about my, as she called it, unnecessary and unacceptable rage on Friday. Could I come in and talk to her about it? No problems. I went to her office and we sat down, and I told her all about the past 2 weeks and all the SH the nurses were pulling in the BCU. She was peeved. First, she told me she was glad my mom had someone so fierce to protect her. Haha. Then she asked me for permission to talk to the hospital director about my mom, her case and what happened. No problems. A few days later, several suits and the social worker could be seen by the nurses' station, then escorting Skank away for a chat. She kept her job, but the rest of the time Mom was there, she was exceedingly polite to both of us, and actually avoided me if possible. Later, the BCU was dinged by the health department because of poor hygiene practices, with the nurses resulting in an outbreak of MRSA, but that's another story. The second story is, EP tries stealing remains from a funeral home. So for starters, I'm an 18-year-old college student working at a local funeral home as a summer job. Call it morbid, creepy, whatever, but it's $9 an hour. Not bad work, and the funeral directors are really nice. Usually my days are slow because people tend to send calls and information to our biggest location in the town over. However, we do tend to have local families come in for consultations or services, like picking up cremains. We have strict rules for picking up cremains because of state laws. The number one being that you can't pick them up without a driver's license matching the information on our form, or a written note stating that the person who filled out the form is allowing the person to pick up the cremains in their place. Pretty straightforward, at least so I thought. Last Friday I was working alone since we hadn't had any calls, and there were no families scheduled to come in for a consultation. For the most part, it was just answering the phone and doing some homework. I noticed a car pull in, assuming it was either someone coming to ask for pricing, which I can't even do, or a director coming in to drop off some kind of paperwork. Instead, a woman, EP, probably in her early 40s, walks in. Small child, SC, in tow. She had on dangerously thin heels and an all-white pantsuit that could only be matched by Hillary herself. EP, hi, I'm here to pick up a cremation. I was immediately confused, because the cremains we did have weren't scheduled to be picked up until next Monday. However, if the person assigned to pick them up comes for them, we have to release them. I quickly start flipping through files to find the ones that should have had her name on them. Me, sure, can I get a driver's license? EP, why do I need that? Me, it's state law, ma'am. The director should have informed you. Was there a misunderstanding? I was mostly confused because, well, she drove here. She should have her license. EP, oh, I wasn't here for all that. I'm coming instead of my sister. Me, that's fine. Can I see the written confirmation that she sent you? EP, I don't have that. Uh-oh. Me, well, I'm really sorry, but I can't release the remains to you unless I have one of those two things. Immediate rage. The woman starts cursing me and the funeral home, claiming she needed those cremains. That's her grandfather, etc., etc. I try calming her down, telling her I understand that she's upset, but I can't do anything about it. EP, can't I just call her? Me, I'm sorry, no. We need the physical identification or confirmation. EP gets even more angry and storms out. I guess to call her sister and complain about me, leaving SC inside. This poor kid had just been listening to all this, so I give her a couple of complimentary pens. Kids seem to love those, and a handful of peppermints. A few minutes later, EP returns, suddenly chipper. EP, sorry about all of that. Do you have a restroom SC can use? Me, sure thing. It's down the hall to your left. Now this is where things get fuzzy. I don't know if she happened to see our back room while walking there or was planning on this the whole time, but either way I was shocked at what she did. A few minutes later, EP and SC come rushing from the bathroom, bolting for the door. Luckily, I caught them escaping, because I saw the bag with the urn in it in her hand. I immediately ran out behind her, called her out on it, and she turned around and begrudgingly handed the bag back. I made sure she knew that if she had tried to keep it, I would have called the police. She muttered something I couldn't make out and got in the car and left. I called the sister to let her know what had happened, and it turned out that EP wasn't even told to go get the cremains. She just did it because she wanted to. You wouldn't think you'd experience something like that in a funeral home. And the last story is Karen versus theater nerds. So background, I recently injured my ankle. We still do not know what it is, but I'm on crutches and an air boot right now. My boyfriend and I work in a theater. We both act for our current show. I'm doing tech because, well, ankle, and he's the lead. We just finished rehearsal and wanted to make some food tonight before a Netflix binge session. He was tired from dancing and singing and crazy stage stuff, the usual, so I decided I would hobble in and take care of it. So I go in and grab one of the electric scooter things, and I head on my way to get some goodies. I stop next to some shelves to look for some extra treats, and I hear the dreaded I scoot forward thinking I'm in the way. I turn around slightly. Yes, can I help you? I want you to get out of my seat. I'm tired and I want to sit there, she says angrily. Ma'am, I'm injured, and if I wasn't, I would walk. Please continue about your day. I'm such a theater person. Just get up, I know you can walk, she whines, her bad haircut shaking. I start to scoot away, but this slow thing is, well, slow. And then Karen goes a bit crazier, like 10 to 100. She runs and jumps on my lap. Get out of the scooter, she yells in my face. I rotate myself so she can't take my phone that I pull out and text my boyfriend. SOS aisle 5. I slip my phone away and just wait while she screams in my face. It honestly felt like an SH director was yelling at me, or an entitled actor. Suddenly I hear my knight in shining armor. Get off my girlfriend now. Boyfriend has rescued me from the fat butt and plastic boobs. My boyfriend is over 6 feet tall and has some serious muscles and, well, a powerful voice. Karen gets up and does the dumbest thing, flirts with my boyfriend. But being the theater weirdos we are, my boyfriend takes this opportunity and takes Karen's place on my lap. Babe, shall we continue onward, he says. I believe we shall, love, I reply. And shall we find the manager for her? Thinking back to this, I can't believe it was real, and thank God for being a weirdo with my boyfriend. I think this was a Karen in training. Update, I ran into Karen again and she started yelling in my face about how rude and ungrateful I was, that I'm faking my injury to get money. Well, me being exhausted like the other day, and knowing she wouldn't get any of my theater references, I just nodded, released the air from my air boot carefully, pulled it off and showed her my bruised up foot. The only physical marks I have on my foot. I carefully put the boot back on. Sweetheart, trust me, sitting makes me antsy. I hope someone gets that reference. It's one of my faves because you don't have to understand it. I just scooted away to the next aisle. I also realized I might have confused some people, so my boyfriend isn't bulky. He's very thin, but his muscles are very defined. He's over 6 feet tall, like I said, and being a theater boy himself, knows how to project his voice well, but he's honestly just a goofball and dorky. I hope you love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out.